Now, following the assassination of a top Iranian general, there are a lot of members of Congress. They're suddenly concerned about Donald Trump's war powers in the region. Now, I say suddenly because, as I've pointed out many times, Democratic politicians have continuously voted to give Trump more and more power, both more power and money to perform military strikes, money for the military. Now, some Democrats are on the right side, and they are pushing to restrict some of that power. Now, this is Democratic Representatives Barbara Lee and Ilhan Omar. Now, they have just announced a war powers resolution in the House on Sunday as a companion bill to one introduced by Senator Tim Kaine on the Senate on Friday. Now, Omar said in a statement, quote, "Let's not mince words. The assassination of Qasem Soleimani was an act of war undertaken without congressional authorization, in violation of the Constitution of the United States of America." So unconstitutional, right? Now, she also says, "We in Congress must exercise our constitutional duty and do everything in our power to stop another disastrous war." I absolutely agree. Now, Ilhan Omar, by the way, she's been excellent when it comes to voting against things like the NDAA, Donald Trump's war budget, and Barbara Lee, of course, if you can remember, she was the only member of Congress to not vote against the to vote against the authorization of military force in Afghanistan. So she voted against. She was the sole member to vote against authorizing George W. Bush the ability to make war. So, look, not even Bernie Sanders can say that. And he came out later and said, I was absolutely wrong on that vote. So, look, on the issue of war and budgets, those two have been really, really good. Now, the rest of the Democratic Party, not so good. Now, in her statement, Congresswoman Lee said it was beyond time that lawmakers in Washington do their duty to rein in Donald Trump. And she said, make no mistake, the assassination of Qasem Soleimani places us on the brink of war with Iran. Trump's reckless military actions without congressional approval or authorization have caused this crisis. She also mentioned how we have been down this road before when it came to Iraq and cannot afford another ill-advised, destructive, and costly war in the Middle East. It is past time for Congress to reassert our constitutional authority and return to diplomacy with Iran and our allies. So, now, those aren't the only one that have introduced legislation. You also have Senator Bernie Sanders working together with Ro Khanna to introduce a separate bill that would bar any Pentagon funding for military force in or against Iran without congressional approval. So now these are the heroes, right? These are some of the biggest anti-war voices on the progressive left. Now, here comes Nancy Pelosi, right? So now Nancy Pelosi, she says, well, a War Powers Act? Yes, I am in favor of a War Powers resolution. According to the Speaker, the resolution the House will vote will be similar to the resolution introduced by Kaine in the Senate. It reasserts Congress's long-established oversight responsibilities by mandating that if no further congressional action is taken, the administration's military hostilities with regard to Iran cease within 30 days. Okay, so he can still do it, but, he's got 30 days, right? So now, we don't know the language in Pelosi's resolution either. And that has me very, very concerned because Pelosi has been actually pretty terrible on this, her record, right? For example, she has voted in favor of giving Donald Trump more money to the military, increasing the military budget, and, of course, his Space Force, and continuing to extend war powers that he should not have, that no president should have. And by the way, Obama shouldn't have had that authorization as well. And so during the Obama years, the president's power, when it came to conflict, when it came to war, has been increased. And now, of course, we warned against that because, of course, someone like Donald Trump could come in and do the very same thing that he had just done. It's amazing nobody saw this happen. But, okay. Now more. Now, let's compare Pelosi to Ro Khanna, for example. Now, Ro Khanna, during the NDAA fight, he got together and supported a bill with Matt Gaetz, of all people, Now, Matt Gaetz is a extremely conservative Republican. However, Matt Gaetz and Ro Khanna both agreed that Trump should not use federal dollars for military action against Iran without congressional approval. So that was an amendment, right? However, that and other amendments that might have stopped Donald Trump from doing this were eventually stripped out of the bill by Nancy Pelosi. So, excuse me why I don't trust Nancy Pelosi. Because every time a bill comes up that would, stop Trump's authority or limit his authority for war, Nancy Pelosi gets rid of it. She tanks it and says, oh, no, we're going to give the Republicans everything that they want and then exercise no leverage whatsoever. Because, no, they're not going to use it for terrible things. Oh, my God, I can't believe he just used it for terrible things. What are you doing? Now, I want to give you a great thread by Walker Bragman. So now, Walker, he points out how Pelosi specifically, not Ilhan Omar, not Barbara Lee, because they are the true anti-war voices on the left, but how Nancy Pelosi's sudden adoption of the War Powers Act is just kind of a kabuki theater kind of ploy. Now, and he points it out in these tweets. He said, Dems allows the defense budget to pass without two necessary amendments, the Khanna amendments, repealing the 2002 Iraq authorization of military force, and the other requiring congressional authorization for funding actions against Iran. Had they been in place, would have placed Trump's assassination of Soleimani on dubious ground. As it stands, Trump's strike was likely legal, probably authorized by the authorization of military force because of where it occurred in Iraq. And without Congress signaling disapproval for actions against Iran, at worst, he could be said to have been acting in the zone of twilight, constitutional gray area. Bragman continues. He said, when Congress requires authorization for an action and the president does not seek it before acting, his action is likely to be held unconstitutional under the analysis from Youngstown Steel. The amendments may not have stopped Trump, but with them, it's a new ballgame. The point is, Democrats royally screwed up again. They had leverage and an opportunity to take a stand. They caved. Trump got more money for defense with Pelosi in charge of the House than he did with Paul Ryan was Speaker. No strings attached. Once again, a disaster caused by the right is written in the ink of liberal weakness. Now, that, of course, is devastating. But where's the lie? Again, there are great people here that are fighting against this war. Ilhan Omar, Barbara Lee, Bernie Sanders, Ro Khanna. They've been trying to limit Trump's power to make wars. And every time they are thwarted by Nancy Pelosi and the establishment, which are the same people, by the way, that are saying how dangerous Donald Trump is. He must be removed. He must be impeached. He cannot be allowed to win elections. And yet, they are doing things to give Trump more power and more money to make war. It's ridiculous. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.